The Honourable Todd McLean.
Mr Speaker, thank you. Mr Speaker, that was the best speech from that member in 50 years. In fact, it wasn't. It wasn't even the worst speech in 50 years. It's just another speech that he's been making for 8 years. And for 8 years, that member and his colleagues have been coming to this House and trying to tell New Zealanders that this is the worst country in the world. And, Mr Speaker, New Zealanders get it. They know that's not the case. Take education, which he passed over very lightly. And what a fantastic speech by a passionate Minister of Education. Mr Speaker, the only people more passionate about education in the country than Hekia Parata are our teachers. And this week, we actually can turn around and say thank you to our teachers and to the people in our schools who have worked so hard to increase outcomes in all of those schools and in our high schools. And they've done it with the absolute support of this government over 8 years. We're spending more money than ever before in education. They've done it with the absolute support of two hard-working ministers of education in this government over the last 8 years who have backed teachers and recognise that students can get ahead where teachers have the tools that they require. $11 billion committed this year in the budget and education. And Mr Speaker, so what did we hear from the Education Minister? Well, statistics, and they're very important. The highest level of achievement in the NCA level 1, 2 and 3 than ever. Mr Speaker, in NCA level 2, an increase of achievement of pass rate 16.6% over the last 8 years since we came to government. That's great. It's a fantastic outcome. It's actually not about the government doing a great job. It's about 16.6% more young people in New Zealand who sit NCA level 2 achieving, doing well, having a brighter future under the support that we're giving them. Mr Speaker, NCA level 1, 74% of young people who sit to NCA level 1 are passing. It's an amazing achievement on the part of those young people, the hard work of our teachers, the great work of our schools, and they know that they're supported by this minister and by this government. And I want to take just a moment to recognise Rotorua Boys High School in my electorate, Mr Chairman, who this week received the Prime Minister's Education Excellence Award for leading an amazing school, a great principal, very hard-working students, supported by their parents. That school recognised that there were groups of students there that weren't achieving well enough. They actually worked extra hard to raise those levels of achievement. That school is as good as any school in this country with the support of this government, the hard work of those teachers. And I want to thank the teachers of those schools and every other school in the Rotorua electorate for the work that they do. But, you know, just briefly, Mr Speaker, that $11 billion sounds like a lot of money. Well, it is, but it's going to go into better school buildings and more school buildings where they're needed, supporting at-risk students, special education, just driving up achievement and success throughout the education system. And you know what this means, Mr Speaker? Hard-working young New Zealanders have a better education, better outcomes, and they get to go and trade those educations for high-paying jobs in a global economy. Mr Speaker, this week we have 500 delegates and 500 negotiators from 16 countries representing the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, a trade negotiation that New Zealand is at the heart of. And this week, as hosts, we are driving hard to make sure a high-quality outcome can be delivered for the 3 billion citizens of those 16 countries that represent half the world's population, that are almost 35% of the world's economy, who spend $23 trillion on GDP every year. We want a higher achievement for them so that all New Zealanders and all New Zealand companies can benefit. And I would say to those listening, Mr Speaker, TPP is a high-quality agreement that will deliver significantly for New Zealand. But RCEP has the opportunity to be significantly larger because these economies are closer to us. They're growing economies, they're developing economies. We have agreements already in place with 14 of them. One we don't, which is India, and India will be a big prize. Our negotiators are pushing hard so that New Zealanders can have a very, very good outcome. It will take some time because we won't settle for less than we should. That was the case in TPP. But, Mr Speaker, those 500 delegates are welcome to New Zealand, and I'm glad that we can play our part to drive for for greater liberalisation and trade openness, so those hard-working students who are achieving so well under Heke Parata in this government can use this great New Zealand education and exchange it for higher-paying jobs in a global economy that wants Kiwis to do well for them. Thank you.
David.